Hey, what's going on? It's the Bearded One back at you again, new video. Hey, so in today's video, we're going to talk about contingencies and what could hold your deal up from purchasing your home or selling your home with these contingencies put in place. So if you don't know, there's contingencies that are put in place in a purchase and sale agreement to ensure that those things are met prior to moving forward and finalizing the deal. So if you're a buyer or a seller, definitely want to stick around to this video. All right, I'll be right back. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Maurice Murphy. I am a local Jacksonville, Florida realtor. And on this channel, we talk about things and ideas that help buyers and sellers and investors. And we also talk about, maybe sometimes we talk about what's going on in around the city of Jacksonville. And the last thing we talk about is beards. Hey, I'm a beard guy now. So if you like the content that I'm putting out on the channel, definitely click that subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up if you like it as well. And also make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when I'm dropping a new video, all right? So let's hop into today's video. Whether you're a buyer or a seller, there are 3 contingencies that could hold up your home from being sold or hold up you from purchasing that home. So this video is going to talk about both sides of the coin for both the sellers and the buyers. The first contingency is the inspection contingency. So what happens is the buyer has an opportunity to inspect the home prior to purchasing it. And so there's a timeline on that. Usually it's about 10 days, not business days, 10 flat out days. If it falls on the weekend, it'll end on that following Monday. If it falls on a federal holiday, it'll fall to the following day. So you really want to make sure that you have adequate time to get this inspection done prior to the process moving forward. That's both for sellers and buyers. So what I've been telling my sellers and telling those buyers that have submitted offers on listings that we have, I've told them that, hey, we're not gonna be nickeled and dimed by very small, minute things. When you submit the inspection report with your repair request, because that's what happens. The inspection is done, a report is completed, and then the buyer's agent will submit what's called a repair request to ensure those things are fixed prior to moving on with the purchase of the home. So with that repair request, what will need to be done, and me as a listing agent, I have instructed buyers and buyer's agent to not send us a bunch of list of small items to have fixed. We need to have major things that are going wrong with the house, whether that be roof, electrical, plumbing, AC. So those are the 4 major items that need to have issues for us to say, okay, let's fix something. Now, there are other things that need to be fixed, whether it be a window is broken, whether it be things that are not cosmetics that need to be fixed. And it basically meaning that it could affect the efficiency of the house or it affects the condition of the house. Cosmetic items do not affect the condition of the house. Because the house needs to be painted, that's a cosmetic thing. Driveway needs to be clean, or the flower beds need to be cleaned out, that's a cosmetic thing. That's not an item that should be submitted on a repair request. We need to have like AC's leaking, AC's not working, roof is leaking. Those are the types of things that are major repairs that needs to be fixed on a repair request. Sometimes it goes outside of that scope, but it really needs to be a major functioning item for the home, okay? After that, inspection contingencies, the next contingency would be the appraisal contingency. So what's the appraisal contingency? So let's say, for instance, we set a price in terms for to sell the home at $300,000. Both buyer and seller agree, home to sold is $300,000, but the appraisal comes back and says that house is only worth $285,000. So now we have a gap of $15,000 between what we agreed the price is to be sold between buyer and seller to what the appraiser says is the actual real price, real value of that home. Now, understand that that is all subjective based upon comparables around the neighborhood. If you have a great real estate agent as a listing agent, they can submit documentation to the appraiser to make sure, or at least try to mitigate that problem from happening. If you have a great real estate agent, they would do that on the front end to make sure that that wasn't a problem after the appraisal came out. So if they haven't done that, you probably don't have the right real estate agent. So they want to make sure that those things are being addressed at the time of the appraisal. What they also should be doing is coming to the appraisal to make sure that, hey, here's a list of items that we've done to repair the home, okay? Now, when the appraisal comes, even if the appraisal comes back after those things have been done, what will happen is there has to be a negotiation between buyer and seller. If the seller really wants to sell the house, they're gonna negotiate. If the buyer really wants to buy the house, they're gonna negotiate. Now, if neither party wants to negotiate, we can wipe our hands with it, send a cancellation, give the buyer their binder back, and then move on to another potential buyer. But what I would say is that's going to continue to be a problem if it's already been appraised at this price, and now you're trying to move on to another potential buyer at that $300,000 price when it's already been appraised at $285,000. So you're going to run into that same issue because another appraiser is going to probably come in at the exact same price that the previous appraiser came in at, and it's going to cause the same issue with any other buyer that you have moving forward to your owners out there. So as a buyer, you want to kind of meet them halfway if you can, if financially you can. If not, you need them to pay the entire amount or soak up that entire amount. Then that happens sometimes. I've had it happen, other sellers have had it happen because they really truly need to sell their home. And we all know that the bank will only give you the amount of the value of the house. So come to an agreement what works best for you, the seller, and what works best for you, for the buyer. So find that common ground, and so you can continue to get the home sold. If you can't do that, like I said, wipe your hands with it, send a cancellation form, have buyer and seller sign that they couldn't come to an agreement on the deal. And the third and final contingency is financial contingencies. Now, when you do these loans and submit these loans, there is a financial contingencies that's put into our contracts to where if for any reason the buyer is not able to get financially approved by the bank, there's a contingency put into place to where they can get that binder back. Now, there's a stipulation of how many days in there, and that has to be written in there. If it's not written in our contracts here in Jacksonville, you basically go by a 30-day rule. What I do as a listing agent, I try to lessen that, or if as a buyer agent, I try to give it at least a 30-day period. So it all depends on what side I'm representing to help the best interest of my client. And I'll be upfront with you, that's what I'm gonna do. So, cause that's my job. I'm supposed to represent my clients to the best of my ability and do what's in their best interest. So for a listing agent, as a seller's agent, I'm gonna try to lower those days. As a buyer agent, I'm gonna try to get the maximum days I can possibly get. So that's how I do it, okay? So now, if those days pass and you find out after those days have passed, you cannot get financially approved for this loan, then what happens at that time is there's an agreement that the buyer usually goes back to the seller. If for some reason that financial contingency happens within that written in the contract time period, you can easily get your binder back as a buyer and try to find something else. Well, not really find something else because you can't get financially approved. You need to try to figure out what the problem is and fix the issue so you can move on and buy something else. And for sellers, it truly sucks that this happens. And I know you've had your house off the market for a long time. Based on the contract, you'll have to move forward and try to find another potential buyer. What I would recommend do is have your listing agent or the agent that's representing you reach out to those other potential buyers that have expressed interest in your home and ask them are they interested in making an offer for the house. So that's really all I have contingency wise that's in our contracts. One is the inspection contingency, is usually 10 days, and you have to submit a repair request after that. The next one is your appraisal and making sure that purchase price meets that appraisal price so there's not a gap in between the two. And there has to be negotiation of where do we meet or how do we figure out what the purchase price is going to be between seller and buyer. And the last thing is financial contingencies. There is a financial contingency put in contracts to make sure that the buyer is able to get financially approved to purchase a home, and there's a time frame that's wrote in on our contracts to ensure that time frame. As I said before, as a seller's agent, I want to make sure that time is less. As a buyer's agent, I'm going to try to make it more because I'm representing two different sides of the coin in a transaction. Okay, I have to do share to both sides, depending on what side I'm representing. Okay, so that's all I have for you today. I am the bearded one, used to be called the bearded realtor, and I'll tell you that story. If you haven't seen that story, I'm gonna tell you that one day. All right, so if you like what you saw on this channel, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to click the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video. All right.